What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one is my team selection for Game Week 28. So I'm going to run you through how the team is looking and thoughts on whether to use either of my two free transfers on a shiny new midfielder this week. And of course, I'll quickly show you how I did in Game Week 27. Just before we jump into it, I do have to apologise to Newcastle fans because on the Game Week preview video yesterday, I said that you lost to Karabag in the Champions League, or actually you won. I'm not really sure how I made that mistake. I must have just looked at it quick. I was recording quite early in the morning, so I do apologise. Congratulations on your win. Good luck in the last 16. Let's talk about my team. So Game Week 27 was my favourite week of the season so far, not because I got my highest score, but because I finally cracked the top 1k. So my official rank is now 769th in the world, triple digits, absolutely delighted with that. I'm pretty sure in 16 seasons playing this game, this is only the second season where I've ever been in the top 1k. So in 2020-21, I finished 1,294th, so just outside the top 1k, but I'm pretty sure at some point during that season, I was about 600th place. So I've never had a top 1k finish by the end of the season. Could this be the one? Maybe. It's a good position to be in, but there's a lot of game weeks to go, chips to be played, doubles, blanks. I know how easily it can go wrong, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's obviously a great position to be in, and I'm hoping I can push on from here. So 57 points, not huge, but it only matters relative to everyone else, and it was enough to put me from about 1,300 in the world to 769th. So great week overall. Only 4 players really got me points. So Van Dijk 11-pointer. He followed up his 17-pointer in Game Week 26. I mean, talk about loyalty rewarded. I had him on wildcard in Game Week 4. If you've been following along, for most of the season, it's been an absolute disaster owning him. But he's really rewarded me recently. And obviously now everyone else is looking to jump on. So it's a good position to already have him in my team. Munoz concedes 3 goals to Burnley, then concedes a penalty to Wolves. All I can say is thank you, Dean Henderson, because they get the clean sheet. Munoz gets defensive contributions, 1 bonus as well, and finishes on 9. Haaland, 6 points, captain into 12. His ownership was a little bit lower this week, so the points did matter. And then in Burma got 6 as well. Elsewhere, Joachim Andersen 4 defensive contributions, same as Declan Rice. Raya got a save point for 3. But Gabriel, Enzo Fernandez, Bruno Fernandes and Thiago all blank. So it wasn't really an exciting week. Like 57 is not huge. But I only predicted 59 on the deadline stream anyway. So I've got to be happy, right? I'm top 1k. I've just got another green arrow. 0 complaints whatsoever. I did bench Senesi in the end for Joachim Andersen. That was a 1-point loss, but honestly, I was always going to play Anderson, so I'm not really too worried about that. And I didn't necessarily think that Elliot Anderson would get another 5-pointer, but he was sub before Liverpool scored. And of course, he got defensive contributions again, but whatever, right? It's only a small thing. I was never going to play Elliot Anderson over Enzo Fernandez. It almost always would have been Joachim Anderson that would have got benched. So it's just a 1-point loss. Who cares about that? So great position to be in. Will the run continue? Maybe, maybe not. Let's talk about Game Week 28. So I've got 2 free transfers this week and 1.4 million to spend. And defensively, things look pretty good to the point that I'm actually playing a back 4 and I've benched Munoz at Crystal Palace, which is not usually a player that you put on the bench, but Palace aren't playing particularly well right now. And it's an away game against Man United, who are doing okay under Carrick. I know the last couple of games haven't been amazing to watch, but they still scored in those games. So I'm not convinced Palace are getting a clean sheet. Is it worth playing him over someone like Joachim Andersen for the attack and returns? Potentially, but I think Fulham have got a good chance of a clean sheet against Spurs, and he's great for defensive contributions as well. So I might change my mind on that and put Munoz in ahead of Andersen, but as it stands, Munoz is on the bench. I've got the double up on Arsenal against Chelsea at home, so that's Raya and Gabriel. I've not really given any thought to selling either of those players. I know people are frustrated with Arsenal defence at the moment, especially the likes of Timber, but for me, they're still the best defence, not only in the league, but probably in the world. And a couple of games where they concede a goal doesn't really change my mind on that. I think for me to say that a different team is the best defence in the league would take like 10, 15 games of Arsenal just doing rubbish in terms of expected goals conceded and stuff like that. Where if you look at Raya's numbers, like against Spurs, they conceded 0.76 XG. And the goal came from a Declan Rice mistake. That doesn't happen that often. 0.29 against Wolves. 1.51 against Brentford. That was a difficult game for them. Before that, 0.19, 0.15, 0.71, 0.34, 0.36 against Liverpool. This is a great defence, and a few games has not changed that. Gabriel's still the best defender in FPL for me, and Ray as a goalkeeper I just don't want to spend a transfer on. Van Dijk, as I've already mentioned, lots of people looking to bring him in. The fixtures are good for Liverpool. The goal threat, the clean sheet potential, the defensive contributions. He's just looking like a good pick all of a sudden, so I'm happy I've got him in place. And Senesi's against Sunderland at home, and despite the recent games where Bournemouth have conceded a lot of chances, their home performances have been quite good. They're one of the best teams for expected goals conceded at home, and Sunderland at home on paper looks pretty good. So I'm more than happy with him. The only real decision is Joachim Andersen against Munoz. Let me know in the comments below if you think different on benching Munoz, but I'm happy to bench him for a game where I've got two Man United attackers and then probably play him against Spurs away, then play him against Leeds at home, and then maybe sell him in game week 31. So my midfield is where all the big decisions are for my team at the moment. As it stands, I've got Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo double up on Man United against Palace at home, Declan Rice against Chelsea at home, and Elliot Anderson against Brighton away. So that's my midfield four. And then second on my bench is Enzo Fernandez against Arsenal away. So although a lot of people are thinking about selling Enzo Fernandez, and I may well do the same, for this week specifically, I don't necessarily need to play him. I'm happy to play Joachim Andersen against Spurs at home, or even Munoz against Man United away instead. So the easy stuff with midfield is Bruno and Mbeumo. They're basically staying until blank game week 31. And if I end up not wildcarding in game week 32, they've got a pretty decent fixture anyway, which is Leeds at home. So there's no need to sell them. Bruno Fernandes is still a great pick despite the recent blanks. And Mbeumo's actually been pretty consistent. He's not really hit a huge double-digit score very often, but he is ticking over with points. So both of those players are fairly straightforward. The big decision is, do I use one or even both of my free transfers on two of Rice, Anderson, and Enzo Fernandez? Now, Declan Rice blanks in game week 31, so there's obviously reason to sell him. But Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Everton at home before that is not terrible. We know he still takes half of the set pieces in that Arsenal team, or at least when it comes to corners, he takes all the ones from the left side. He takes some free kicks as well. We know he can get defensive contributions. He's almost certain to do that in a game like Chelsea. So he's not a terrible pick. Elliot Anderson, super consistent, but not likely to get you a big haul. Now, in the Premier League game against Liverpool under Vitor Pereira, he did seem to get forward a little bit more. But that might be part of the reason why he was subbed earlier. Now, he still picked up defensive contributions in that game, but the earlier you're subbed, the less chance of getting defcons. So does him getting forward a bit more outweigh the potential loss of defcons? I don't know. I do think there's a slight chance Elliot Anderson's on penalties, because Igor Jesus is not starting at the moment, and Gibbs White has missed a couple. So there's potential great value in Elliot Anderson, but he's not going to go and hit those big scores over the next few weeks. And as we know from discussions already this game week, there's a lot of good cheap midfielders. So even Elliot Anderson is someone I'm thinking about selling potentially. And then Enzo Fernandez is obviously terrible this week against Arsenal away. With Palmer playing quite regularly now, Enzo Fernandez doesn't have penalties. So he has become a worse pick. But after this week, I keep kind of talking to myself about this, kind of saying, is he terrible? Like, if I had to play Enzo Fernandez against Villa away or Newcastle at home or Everton away in the blank, is that absolutely awful? Yes, Dangu Utara, Sharda, Rayan, Wilson, they might be better options than Enzo, but are they so good it's worth a transfer? Is holding that transfer back for game week 31 or even post wildcard a better strategy? I don't know. And this is why I'm a little bit stuck with my team at the moment. Like, if there was no blanks or doubles coming up, and I wasn't quite, and there was no other midfielders that really needed to come in, I'd happily roll this midfield. There's not really an issue with it. But because we know there is a blank coming, and because there's a lot of players right now with good fixtures that also have a good fixture in 31, it feels wrong not to bring them in. And also, as much as this team is rollable, if I look at it on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub and I go to game week 29, I probably would play Enzo Fernandez against Villa away. But it also, I would definitely play Joachim Andersen ahead of Elliot Anderson. I'd basically be playing 4-4-2 again. I'd probably bench Senesi because I've got Thiago and play Munoz. But it means I'm playing Rice against Brighton away and Enzo against Villa away. Like, if I had Sharda in there, he'd have Bournemouth away. If I had Harry Wilson, he'd have West Ham at home. So there are a couple of upgrades I can make. I also keep thinking about the fact I've been so cautious with my transfers this season, which quite often has left me in a really flexible position to deal with any issues. And so part of me is thinking, yes, there's a lot of good players I could bring in this week, but the longer I leave it, the more I can be absolutely sure that I've got the right one. Like, what if I bring in Sharda and he gets injured? And I know players can get injured at any point. That's not a reason to necessarily not bring someone in, but it is more on my mind because in Game Week 31, I won't have a bench to rely on. So I'm not sure. I'll be honest, part of me is thinking keep Enzo Fernandez. Like, is Enzo Fernandez worse than Elliot Anderson? I don't know if he is. So I'm thinking about maybe selling both Rice and Anderson or just one of them. And then maybe just rolling the other transfer to next week to leave myself a little bit more flexibility. Then the question is, which midfielder am I going to bring in? Now, if Slot says that Wirtz is fit on Friday, I think I'm going to ignore him because they're playing Saturday, then again on Tuesday. And I'm sure if Wirtz is fit, he'll play both of those games. But I don't want to take the risk. So for me, it's one of Szoboszlai, Rayan, Tavernier, Sharda, Utara, or Wilson. I've pretty much discounted Tavernier. He's only just back from a hamstring problem. They're also playing games in quick succession, Bournemouth. Rayan is just an unknown to me, and I'm not willing to take that risk. I think the only thing that's going to happen with his minutes is they probably go down rather than stay the same. So I'm going to ignore him, even though I think he's probably quite a good pick. And if I was bringing in this player potentially for 6 to 8 weeks, I may look at Szoboszlai. But because it's probably only up until wildcard in game weeks 32 or 33, I think I want to go for a short-term punt on not even a punt, but go for a player that's maybe more likely to go and get me those attack and returns from open play. So for me, it's Sharda, Utara, or Wilson. What keeps playing on my mind is Sharda. Last time I thought about bringing him in and didn't, he scored a hat-trick. And he's quite a big differential, and I think he will start. And once he's in that team, I think unless he plays badly, he'll just keep playing. So I'm very tempted to do something like, I don't know, Rice to Sharda maybe? Or Elliot Anderson to Wilson. I don't think, let me just double check. I don't think I can do, I can do Elliot Anderson to someone that's, let me just check here. 6.7 million. So I can't quite afford Sharda, but I could do Wilson or Utara. Maybe I just do both. Maybe I just get rid of Rice and Anderson and just keep Enzo for now. Like, if I did that, right, let me just go back to game week 28. Let me get rid of Rice for Sharda. Just change that. And Anderson for Wilson. So I can afford that. That makes my team, it definitely makes my team look better this week. Just using both free transfers ahead of a blank doesn't feel good. But I know at least those two players are good for blank game week 31. So game week 29, all of a sudden I've got Harry Wilson against West Ham at home. And I would definitely play Sharda ahead of Enzo. And I would I don't know, Munoz or Enzo instead of Senesi. I can decide that next week. It doesn't matter. Game week 30, I would definitely roll in game week 29, by the way. Game week 30, the defence looks great. So double Arsenal against Everton at home. Munoz Leeds at home. Van Dijk Spurs at home. Senesi Burnley away. And actually, I'd probably bench Harry Wilson against Forest away and play Enzo instead against Newcastle at home. This is why I'm not so against getting rid of keeping Enzo. And then game week 31, I would have Guiu, Haaland, Gabriel, Munoz all blanking. Then I make my decision about which one to sell. I probably wouldn't sell Gabriel because I've got a lot of money riding on him. Like over $1 million he's gone up since I brought him in. It would probably be Munoz and just keep the money in Haaland. Maybe Haaland to Solanke, Haaland to Watkins if I think he's going to get good minutes. But I reckon Munoz out probably for Chow. Sunderland at home, and then just play 4-5-1 and roll 2 transfers into game week 32, basically, and then probably wildcard. The other thing that I want to quickly talk about is game week 32 itself. I mentioned on Twitter the other day that one thing, in this scenario, I'm bringing in Sharda and Wilson, so it doesn't matter, But in a scenario where I only make one move, either, like, let's just say I sell Declan Rice and keep Elliot Anderson and Enzo Fernandez, Wilson versus a Brentford midfielder is quite interesting. Because although the current plan is to wildcard in game week 32, I'm not locked on that. And because of that, I'm starting to think that maybe I go for the Brentford player over Harry Wilson, because in game week 32, Brentford play Everton at home and Wilson plays Liverpool away, which is not great. Now, why might I not wildcard in game week 32? Well, look at my team. It's pretty good, right? Haaland's not going to have a double that week. So Haaland would have Chelsea away, Thiago and Schade Everton at home. Enzo I could sell against Man City at home. In fact, if I just quickly go back to game week 28. So I've gone back to game week 28, and instead of selling Elliot Anderson, I've sold Enzo Fernandez and Rice for Schade and Szoboszlai, which still looks pretty good this week. Schade's got Burnley away, and Szoboszlai's got West Ham at home. So I'm not going to go through all the other transfers, but basically I get to game week 31 for the blank, and I do Minoz to Chow like I just mentioned. And then when I get to game week 32, the team looks really good. So the midfield would be Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo against Leeds at home, Elliot Anderson against Villa at home, Schade Everton at home, and then Szoboszlai Fulham at home. The only slight downside would be Chow against Palace away, but that's not really a big deal. So this is what I'm saying about not being 100% set on wildcard 32, because my team's going to look really good. Now, part of the reason to wildcard in 32 is to set up the bench boost for 33, but until we know exactly who's doubling and who's blanking, we can't be sure whether that bench boost is going to be amazing. So it might be there's a scenario where I don't wildcard 32 because my team looks good, and maybe I free hit in game week 33 for the double, and then wildcard in 34 in the blank or something like that. Now, the probable outcome will be that I'll wildcard 32, I'll bench boost 33, I'll free hit 34. But depending on how those blanks and doubles fall, like which teams end up doubling, will basically determine what my chip strategy is. So the point I'm trying to make, very long-winded, and I'm probably overthinking this, the likes of Schade and Szoboszlai, just keep your options open because they've got a good fixture in game week 32 rather than going for Wilson, who would have Liverpool away. But then part of me just thinks, just get the points now. If you get to game week 32 with Wilson and you decide not to wildcard, on this plan I would have 3 free transfers. So I could just sell Wilson for 1 week and then use my chips. So as much as that is playing on my mind, not guaranteeing wildcard 32, I feel like Wilson and Schade is probably what I quite like. And that's not to say that Rayan or Tavernier or Danguitara are bad picks. I think they're all good. It's almost coin flip territory. That's just who I'm looking at. But part of me just said, roll. Just roll. The team looks good. And I have 3 free transfers next week. But I think I'm going to make at least 1 move. And Wilson or Schade are probably my top 2 as it stands. And then up front, I've got Thiago against Burnley away and Erling Haaland against Leeds away. Thiago is someone that I held through the bad fixtures, and obviously the good fixtures start now, so there's no need to be worried about him. Lots of people are considering bringing him in. He's got really nice fixtures, nailed on penalties, just what you want from an FPL pick. And then Haaland looks great for the next 3. Like, briefly, over the last couple of game weeks, I did have a thought about going ultra differential, selling Haaland and getting Salah, but it just doesn't look like a great move. And right now, Haaland's my captain against Leeds away as well. I may switch to Fernandes, as discussed on the Game Week preview video on Wednesday. I'm just not sure there's enough this week to go against Haaland. Like, I think Leeds are absolutely capable of turning up and making it difficult, but I can also see Haaland just scoring a couple of goals in a fixture like that. And I know his ownership's going to be so high and my overall rank shouldn't, play a part in the decision, but it is hard to not think about that. Is there enough to go for the differential in Fernandes? Like, Palace not playing well, but then neither of Man United the last couple of games, but it is at home. And Fernandes has been so consistent this season. I may switch. It's between those 2, no one else. Otherwise, I think the team looks good. I probably will make 1 or 2 midfield changes, but absolutely this team is rollable. And I checked my AI suggested transfers over on Hub, and that's what it wants me to do. Save a transfer and have 3 next week. It just doesn't feel great. I think with, not to go back over the midfielders too much, not going for Harry Wilson this week doesn't feel that bad. Like, Spurs at home's a good fixture, but if I don't have him, so be it. But it would feel bad to buy a Brentford player after they play Burnley. Not to say you can't do that, but it doesn't feel great. So I think I'll make at least one move this week, but I could just roll. I think the team looks really good. Having 3 free transfers and money in the bank just puts you in such a flexible position. Let's see what happens. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to check out Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description below. There's a 7-day free trial at the moment if you want to check out all the tools that they've got. Otherwise, I will catch you on Friday for final thoughts and the deadline stream. It's a Friday deadline this week, so I'll see you then.